It's official. Good afternoon. Okay. Let's go ahead and call to order the Cities Association of Santa Clara County Executive Board meeting at 4:40 p.m. On whatever today is.
21st.
January 21st, 2025. First up is, and welcome everyone. You know, it's like welcome to 2025. I'll be getting to my president message in a little bit, but thank you for coming to our beautiful city hall. We'll be introducing everyone, but I want to introduce everyone to Tim Kirby, my city manager, who will be joining us for the next year. Thank you, Tim. And with that, may we have roll call?
Yes. Larry Klein.
Present.
Ina Walia.
Present.
J.R. Fruin. Elliot Scazola.
Here.
Issa Flagger. Here. With 4 attendees, we have quorum.
Thank you. And JR is on his way, so hopefully we'll be arriving soon. Next up is oral communications. This is a chance for the public to speak on non-agendized items. Are there any? There's no one in the room. Is there anyone remote wishing to speak? Thank you. And please note that J.R. Fruin is now in attendance. There we are. Next up is our consent agenda. We have one thing on the agenda, consent calendar. Approve the minutes from the executive committee meeting of October 30th, 2024. Are there any comments? Seeing none. Is there any member of the public wishing to speak on this item?
No.
Thank you. Is there a motion?
So moved. Second.
Thank you. Made by Walia, seconded by Flagler. You conduct the vote.
Motion to approve the consent agenda as presented by Walia, second by Flagger. We don't have to roll call votes. We're all in favor.
Yep.
All here. Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimous.
Well, any abstentions?
Oh, any abstentions?
Yes. Thank you. Okay, next up is the president update. So welcome everyone. Thank you for being on the executive board this year. Welcome to 2025. You know, for me, this is, first, I'm really excited to be back president of this organization. You know, 2020 was not the easiest time to be president. So I'm hoping that we don't have as many issues as we had 5 years ago. This is the 35th year of this organization. So at some point, we need to think about that celebration. I forgot to bring that up, the holiday party. Thanks again for a wonderful holiday party, Issa. And for me, it's definitely, I'm not going to be able to accomplish as much as Nisa did last year. Finalizing the JPA is an accomplishment that it was a critical thing to get across the line. For me, you know, it's kind of the message that I mentioned during the holiday party of stronger together, I think is my critical effort this year. And that goes to several things, one of which we'll be talking about later is the JPA and having all 15 cities as part of that JPA, which I think is a big step of the countywide efforts that we're looking at. But to me, one of the big things that I wanted to look at is improving governance across the county. So that was one of the biggest things that I learned in 2020 was trying to get that common voice of everyone in the county. Several years ago, we had Kevin Dugan here to talk about how our councils can work better together internally, how they work with city staff, how they work with city manager. Continuing that effort, that's one of the things that we'll be talking about this year. I've had several council members talk about standards, what their cities are doing. You know, you have new council members, you have new mayors wondering, you know, what do you do for proclamations? What do you do I think it's just sharing that information, but especially when you look at the division and let's say partisanship across the nation right now, trying to focus on how each of our councils can work better internally as well as kind of across borders, I think makes a big effort of why we have the Cities Association at the end of the day. And so as we look, especially for not to predefine anything, but as we look at the summer event or at our, let's say our May, June event, whenever we pick whatever date we pick, that to me is one of the big things, that having as many council members in a more relaxed environment, talking about how to better work together, and especially having some new council members that have a few months under their belts, understanding that I think is a positive thing that we can do from a cities association, focusing on that, improving that communication, standardizing what each of our councils are doing, I think is a really good. And then, other topics, and not to presuppose anything that we'll be talking about, we'll have our discussions at our board meeting later this month, but looking at finally fixing the website, which we were hoping to do last year, but didn't finalize. Looking at, just coming back from DC on Sunday from the U.S. Conference of Mayors, disaster preparedness across the county, and looking at each of our cities has our own issues to deal with, I think is really important, especially this year. But it's sharing that information, making sure that best practices and all that are dealt with, just being better prepared overall. So those are some of the things that we will tackle. Hopefully we don't have any big surprises like we had 5 years ago, but I'm looking forward.
I love we're not naming it.
Yeah, I don't want to name it. It never happened at this point, or we've all moved beyond it. It was kind of interesting to be in DC 2 years ago. Everyone was tested before we went to the White House. A year ago, no one was tested and no one was wearing masks. This year, maybe 5 people in the whole conference were wearing masks, but no coughing for being wintertime, no coughing, none of that. And it was interesting that it was like, we've moved beyond people's either, COVID is still here, but there's other things out there. But it was interesting to see that many mayors and that many people from all of the US at one setting, and nobody, it wasn't cold season, it wasn't flu season to a large degree for it being January. So it was interesting. That was my general message. Any comments, any questions? Any member of the public wishing to speak?
No, not online.
Okay. We'll move on to our next item. Item number 3, 2025 meeting calendar for Executive Committee, Board of Directors, Legislative Action Committee, and City Selection Committee discussion. Shali, do you want to first kick off the discussion about the calendar?
Yeah. So first, I want to thank everyone for answering the poll for executive committee meetings. The one date that everybody could make it was the 4th Thursday at 4:30. So when everybody approves that, I will send out calendar invitations. Our board of directors, the 2nd Thursday of the month, legislative action, the 2nd Thursday as well. City selection committee, there's only one date here because it's kind of as needed. And so I'll let the mayor decide when we have our next one. If you look at the back of the calendar, I did look at some dates in 2025 to kind of work around them. And the only date that we have a conflict with is Thanksgiving, and that's for our executive committee meeting. So we'll have to change that date. July 24th, the 4th Thursday is July 24th. There's actually 5 Thursdays in July. So yeah. So we could change that date to make it later in July. Because typically we don't really have meetings in July. And then I highlighted the annual party because the 2nd Thursday is December 11th. But as happened in 2024, we decided to change the date of that. So that's also highlighted. But otherwise, there's no conflicts with the other dates.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Shali?
Just very quickly, did you say December 11th is a Thursday, 2nd Thursday? No,
It should be.
I haven't checked my calendar.
Okay.
Oh, so it is. So, okay, so we may need to change that.
Exactly,
Okay,
because
Thanks.
typically our holiday parties in lieu of the meeting.
yeah, great, thanks.
And especially with what we did this year, I would definitely look at moving to the weekend. I think, that Sunday
Worked well.
worked out very well.
It
I think it
did.
was one of the better turnouts and
Right.
people
Yeah.
felt a little more relaxed than
Not a
what's.
lot of competing events, it's the weekend. So a couple of questions, Shelley, through the chair. For July 24th, you have that highlighted because it's open for discussion. Is that why you have it highlighted? Because
Yeah, in case you wanted to meet later in July, because
Good.
typically we don't meet.
exactly. So you just put it there because that would be the normal date falls on.
Yes, and I wanted to flag that to your attention.
Okay, because that's what happened the last time. And then if President Klein will remember when we presented the calendar last year, there were all these questions about the format, and I just want to make sure it's very clear.
Yes.
Is it better to, even though these are events, is it better to, instead of saying no meeting, is it better to just, because it is a meeting, I think we should ask Jani, but we are treating these events as meeting because we do roll call.
That's true.
To avoid the confusion, remember people were like, wait, is there no meeting? And then people like, look at the other column, it's over there.
Okay.
So maybe just put it there so everybody can look at it and see, okay, yes, there's a June meeting, but it's the annual membership event. Cause I'd get rid of that.
So get rid of the
Fifth column.
events column?
That's just, based on all the questions that followed our calendar approval last year.
And just remove no meeting.
Yes.
And then
Because it,
I'll call it special meeting because that's what we've been calling
Exactly.
it.
And so we'll see whether or not we cancel the July 24th. Well, whether or not that's that week or we move it out of a week.
right,
Keep in mind, and this is one of the things from the columns, the way they're laid out. The executive committee meeting listed is for really the next month,
Mhm.
which makes it a little odd as you're reading through it.
right.
But just keep that in mind, that it's like, okay, you're really, all of our executive committee, so the July 24th meeting is really for the August 14th meeting.
Mhm.
So it's really could go a week later for the July meeting. And the question is, do we want to just go ahead and reset that executive board meeting at this point, or do people care about that fifth Thursday in?
To Larry's point, like reading it,
Yeah.
so we understand. So to your point, you're gonna see the executive committee meeting February 27th, but then the board meeting February 13th.
Yeah.
Do we flip those columns?
But that's a question, because and this is, as you're reading this, and this is always the question, that's like, okay, right now we're meeting for the 21st. We currently don't have a February 13th an executive board meeting prior to the 13th, the way things currently stand. We have 2 weeks from our next meeting to the meeting after that. So we're not meeting as an executive board prior to the February 13th meeting.
So this executive committee meeting is to prep for both January 30th and
We
February.
should have, I just realized,
Yes.
it's like, it wasn't until we
Yes.
went through this that
Yeah,
that we really talked about,
yep,
yes.
yep.
So as we talk about, it's like one of the things when we get to agendas,
Mhm.
I'll be asking for authority to basically set the agenda for the February
Yes.
13th meeting.
Yep. Because we didn't agendize topics today for the February 13th meeting.
Correct.
Got
And we
it.
could talk
Yes,
in general about
Yep.
what needs to get done, but that is an issue. Because we basically and this is the issue of when you get them all together, it's like.
which is what triggers all the questions, right? Because so what you would need to do, Charlie, are you following us? You have to drop all the dates. So February 27th is now in the same row with March 13th.
So last year I did it that way and the board got very confused.
No, but he's going to, I know, that's,
So
but
I changed
Larry
this.
will use his authority to get a date for that February 27th. That's what he's gonna use his authority to do.
Okay. So
So-
then you want the executive committee meeting to line up with the
Exactly.
board and, okay.
Exactly.
And I think that's clearer for people.
Yes.
Yes. Sorry, Sean.
No, it's okay. It's okay.
This helps, like seeing it like this.
It wasn't until we got the packet and I'm like,
Right.
oh, okay, now, fine. We'll talk, this is what this meeting's for.
Yes.
Because then it highlights that, oh, look at the distance between those two meetings
Yep.
and whether or not we actually need a meeting at certain points. But yeah, this is when I finally saw this, it was like, oh yeah, this is two meetings really, and we only noticed one.
Also,
So we look at calendars today and pick the date for you for the executive committee meeting to prep for February 13th.
Or we just want to is everyone able to set up their choose a date prior to February 13th? First week of February, say basically post January 30th.
Yeah.
So the next 2 weeks after that.
And we're 72 hours before the 13th.
Yes. That makes sense to everyone.
so I would be posting the agenda on February 10th. It's really the week of February 3rd.
That is correct.
Which means the first week of February is the only
Correct.
option for us.
Yes, 3rd through 7th.
Fifth, seventh,
I'm pretty open actually at 4:30 or later. I'm still can only do. I'm very flexible that week, but 4:30 or later.
yeah, fifth, I have a council meeting. Wednesday. My council meetings are Wednesdays. Basically, I think those are the
Tim?
dates we may need to.
Do you know if where the charter review committee is going to be meeting?
They're gonna be meeting in Redwood,
Thanks.
so we're good.
Okay,
So the Monday, 3rd and Friday, the 7th would work for me. 4:30 we're talking about?
yes,
Okay, those are my 2 days for sure that I can do.
Friday the 7th, meet,
Or
Yeah,
Monday. the
Or
4th.
Monday, the 3rd.
hang on,
Would you have enough turnaround time after January 30th to meet on 3rd? Because January 30th is the board meeting. And
So we may
that-
have to continue. I don't know.
January 30th is the board meeting, Cities Association. That's a Thursday. And within 4 or 5 days, Monday
Oh.
is February 3rd. Does she have enough time to agendize for?
for that meeting, for a
Yeah.
Monday meeting? Oh.
For a Monday meeting, I would probably agendize it on, technically I can do it on Friday or Thursday.
Thursday is the board meeting. That's why I'm raising that.
It's both on the same day, so it's a question for you. Is the
I mean-
7th easier for you?
The 7th is easier for me, but if the 3rd is the only day that works, then I'll make it work.
I cannot do the 7th at all.
This is generally speaking how it
Third
always
Can
goes.
we do the 3rd?
The 3rd works, the 5th works, the
Because I
6th
think,
works.
so is it the noticing that's the issue for you on the 3rd, or is it you have a conflict on the 3rd?
Oh, it's the noticing. I don't have a
I
conflict.
think the agenda for the executive committee,
Will be pretty much.
yeah, it's,
It's pretty much just the agenda.
Right.
The agenda for the next meeting on the 13th.
Okay.
So it should be relatively
Okay.
light.
Then I guess I'll know if anything gets continued from the January 30th meeting. We don't have to.
And yeah, that'll just be agenda. So it should be fairly simple. Okay,
So pencil in the 3rd.
so let's go ahead and pencil in the 3rd.
Can I reconfirm tonight? Or I can text my city manager right now?
Because go ahead and text.
Okay.
But
It looks good to me. I
Okay.
just want, because there's some commission,
that's fine. We
All
have,
things
we
we
have
do like
board,
this.
we have board and commission interviews starting at 6. So
Mm,
this will have to be over in an hour anyway.
so 4:30, the 3rd.
At 4:30 to 5:30, we should be done. Should be even lighter than this meeting.
I know,
Same
I
reason.
saw
We
that,
start
I saw that, I saw that. I was like,
I'll just post it on.
Yeah.
So it shouldn't be a problem.
Okay.
Also on the calendar, I'm sorry I didn't flag it, but if you look under the LAC committee, October 9th is tentative because the legislature is not in session. So
Ah.
in 2024, LAC didn't meet, but LAC did have a meeting in November as kind of a wrap up. So this would be a question for our LAC chair.
Seems to me to be valuable. I will say that I probably will not be able to be here on the 10th of April. And that is sort of the midpoint for a lot of things that are happening in Sacramento, and it may be worthwhile shifting that date around anyway. just to catch the legislative cycle at the right point. I'll double check their calendar.
And can you repeat about October date? What was the issue there?
Oh, so the legislative session is
Over.
kind of over,
Right.
right? And in November, what LAC usually does is an update to themselves and to the rest of the board. So that's why I left the November meeting in. So I'm just following the calendar that we did last year.
I will say this about the October date, if we wanted to shift it further forward, there might be some value in still having it for the sake of reaching out to the governor.
That's what I was gonna suggest, so,
So
Right.
keep it.
but if we can move it up, actually.
Okay.
I think that's worthwhile looking at.
And which,
Like, so late like last, maybe final week of September or something, or before,
we have
before
a meeting on
everything-
September 11th.
And how it normally works,
Mm-hmm.
JR, is as long as the board has taken a position on an issue, you have authority to follow up.
Yeah.
So you don't necessarily need a meeting unless you're advocating for a position the board has.
Hasn't yet taken. Okay,
Yeah.
that's
And that's what we
reasonable.
normally do. That's crunch time when they're calling us and
Got it.
Right.
yeah.
We, with the.
Yeah, absolutely. Go right ahead.
We had to do that last year.
Yeah.
And I worked with Lisa, so you can work directly
Sure.
with Larry, and I did a sanity check with Lisa, that these are the things the
I
board had
remember
already.
that, yeah.
Remember?
Yeah.
You will have a lot of authority and you'll get a lot of calls.
The thing I will note is that sometimes toward the end of a legislative session, there are a number of bills that are gutted and amended, so sometimes it's helpful having something in that last week that they're in operation, because it's still a spot bill sitting there going,
That we haven't taken a position
Yeah.
on, is not consistent with our policy.
Yeah. I guess the question is, how much do we want to scramble?
I'm gonna point out one more thing. In case the city selection committee meeting, we don't finish all the appointments and we have to push it out, would you like to do that in February in lieu of LAC and then push out LAC? Or would you like to do it some other?
Oh, let's leave it for now.
Okay,
If nothing else, we might, the first meeting in February, from a LAC standpoint, maybe it's not an hour, maybe, or, conceivably, it depends on how many selection committee items we need to consider. And so whether or not I can do it in half an hour, hopefully we'll see. We'll see what workload is at the end of the day. So I think that's a bigger issue. So for now, just leave it. And if we have to do 3 meetings a night, LAC, selection committee and the commission and the general board meeting, we'll do it.
You just have a tired board.
Tired executive board.
Yeah.
Yeah, because some studies have different.
Yes, we have. So we have
Yes, president.
slotted in
Yeah.
3 meetings in one evening if need be. Not the normal case. So normally selection committee doesn't go that long, but we'll see. And we can shorten, conceivably, we keep the standard 7 PM meeting shorter and start a little bit later. If we have to do 3 meetings, we can play with agendas, so that's not a problem. Any other comments or questions about the calendar?
One other. Flag this. So May 22nd is executive committee meeting,
Mhm.
is for which board of directors meeting? Is
it'd
that,
be for the August. And if you wanted to finalize anything for June, it would cover June and August.
it would cover the June summer event, but
Yeah.
if the summer event happens in May,
Right now, so we'll
keep it simple.
keep it simple
Good,
now.
thanks.
Keep it where it is now, assuming
Good.
that we'll meet
Works.
just before the June meeting. If it pulls it into May,
Okay,
there's pluses and minuses, but with both.
and we can keep May 22nd for now. If we don't need it, we can cancel it later.
Absolutely.
Okay, that's what, I just wanted to bring that to
Thank you.
everybody's attention. That's
Thank
it.
I'm looking at the legislative calendar.
Mhm.
Last day for bills to be introduced, the 21st of February. So the 13th seems valuable if we want to be able to say, hey, we'll make a bill like this. And then the 10th is actually when spring recess begins,
The 10th of
of April.
Yeah.
So it's probably valuable to actually shift that one date. If only because there will be things that happen all the way up to the very last moment before they leave. And we won't have any time to digest that by 4:30 on a Thursday.
Lisa?
So two things, JRs. Normally, the first meeting of the year, because we're not normally at that final date when all bills are introduced, we do like an overview, because you're gonna have a lot of new
Yeah.
council members. So it's your opportunity to explain to them what LAC is, how it works, the priorities that the board has voted on. It's that kind of orientation type of meeting. So I still recommend having that meeting, so after that
Sure.
we can be
Yeah,
productive.
yeah, I'm not recommending that we move the February one. I think that's fine.
And then for April 10th, because folks are used to having these meetings as standing meetings on their calendars, we really want to move it around unless there's advance notice. Like, people are used to coming that second Thursday for all the meetings.
Yeah.
And so I agree with you. I think if we have flexibility and we knew members on the different boards were willing to move around and do special meetings, I think it would be more productive because we'd have more information. I just know a lot of council members, they have this second
Yep.
Thursday on their calendar for when they come to all cities association meetings.
So I think it behooves you to get authority that if for writing
Right.
letters and all of what the
No,
issues are.
I get that. I'm underscoring that on the 10th of April, I won't be here.
Oh,
So,
and inconceivably, we could find another member of the executive board to run that meeting in your, yeah, I think you just conceivably, that's fine, and I think exactly what Nisa said as far as trying to make sure that we meet these dates, not moving off of.
Sure.
Because as we see, it's like finding another day of the week that doesn't conflict becomes almost impossibility, but yes, we'll figure it out. Any other comments about the calendar?
I am good with February 3rd. I got confirmation.
Very good.
Can I just clarify before I present
Yeah.
this to the board? Do you want me to change the December 11th date to whatever the Sunday is after December 11th?
Yes, let's go ahead and plan for that now.
Okay.
It was the fifth, if I remember, but I looked at it a little ago. Like to do the first
First Sunday?
Sunday, the 7th. Yeah, let's just plan for that now. And then
Okay.
as we get closer to that date and figure out where we'll have it and all that, then we'll do it. Any other comments? Any member of the public wishing to speak?
No.
Is there a motion?
So moved with the changes, the holiday party, December 7th, the
Mhm.
first Sunday. The addition of an executive committee meeting for February 3rd at 4:30 p.m.
Yes.
And some adjustments in how this gets displayed.
Yes. Thank you. Second, Vice Cascola.
Second vice. Motion to accept the calendar with the changes discussed in the meeting by, do you want me to list the changes?
No.
No, okay. By Walia, second by Scazola, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion passes unanimously.
Very good. Thank you, everyone. Moving forward, identify potential speakers for January through June of 2025.
So we had a few that were left over from 2024. Toronto Wireless, that was kind of left over mainly because Carl Gardino is very hard to pin down. So I think we have all of 2025 to offer him. Another topic was fleet electrification. So the Los Altos city manager, Gabe, asked if we would like to undertake this topic. The little bit of research that I did on this is that San Jose has completed their master plan, but they haven't implemented it yet. So if we did want San Jose to speak to it, they can talk to how they developed their master plan to electrify their fleet. The Bay Area Host Committee reached out to me again in January for multiple big events. They wanted to come and present to us. Chappie Jones is on their advisory committee, so he would come also. And then the last request that I got is Applied Wisdom for Nonprofit Leadership. Kathleen King wanted to present to our board. She would like 20 to 30 minutes, but I think that's a lot.
What's the nonprofit?
Applied Wisdom for Nonprofit Leadership.
It's what's his name? Jim Morgan?
Yes, exactly.
Oh, okay,
Jim Morgan's group.
okay.
So those are kind of like on the docket in the parking lot.
You mean the applied materials group? Never mind.
Oh, I don't know.
Yeah.
If people have other topics, I've been talking to Jeff Rosen. I think one of the big issues is immigrants and what's being planned from a county standpoint. I'm trying to get him or assistant DA to come in. Definitely, there's been a lot of scams going on against the immigrant community of text me, give me money, whatever, and I'll help you with ISIS here or whatever. So there's those sorts of scams that are going through the community right now. I've been trying to get them for our city council, but I think having them also come to Cities Association is raising everybody, and you'll probably have to duplicate in each of our communities, but I think that is a critical thing one day after Inauguration Day right now.
Yeah.
But I think
And one of our soon too, like one of our upcoming agenda
yes,
items.
yeah, so I'm
I
hoping
agree.
for one of the next two meetings to get the DA or DA's assistant to come in for that presentation.
And we could also, I mean, Steve Preminger isn't here, we could also invite someone from James Williams's office, because the county exec also issued a memo
Yeah.
about how we as a county will be handling it, so it'd be great to get that as well.
Yes. That's a good point. And I know this, go ahead, Tim.
I was just gonna say, I think I was just looking at my calendar, but I have something coming up with Steve in the next week or so. I can ask him about that, if that would help.
That would be useful. I know he normally comes to our board meetings, so he will be here also, so, yeah. And then as far as the host committee, I know that they presented to the city managers. Can you give a little bit about?
Yeah, it was a very high level presentation. They were still working out details for both the World Cup and the Super Bowl. But I do think it would be good for the Cities Association to hear from the host committee. I'm sure things have developed since then. And I think especially the World Cup will impact all of our communities in some way. And we want to also be able to plan for events around those sporting events. So I do think that would be a good presentation for the group to hear.
Thank you. Oh, sorry.
Sure, I just wanted to add the planning collaborative. Since we have a whole bunch of you board members, they may not be aware of how much value the planning collaborative adds. So
Vice President?
Thank you. So I had reached out to President Mayor Klein last week, and wanted to offer my support to help him this year as much as we can achieve as an organization. And I know Mayor Klein is very busy running the city of Sunnyvale.
Running the city. I'm just a figurehead, you know.
Yeah, we all have a good city manager. Don't get me wrong.
Yes, we all work together to run these organizations, is what I'd say.
Yes, thank you. So one of the things I am grappling with in my city, as most of the cities here, are the images, literally, and I want to use this word intentionally, the images from Los Angeles from last week are scorched on our minds. My city, as you've heard numerous times, half of my city is in Bowie, while in urban interface area, very high fire hazard zones. People have been losing home insurance for a while. And the third part is my city has the maximum number of builders remedy projects, 22. And quite a few of those are in the hills, the high fire risk zones. So after we talked about this last week, I was able to request an agendized item for my city council to have a needs assessment about disaster planning for my city of Saratoga. Where we are, do a gap analysis, what do we have, what do we not have? And thankfully, our mayor Bilal supported me, and I was in a meeting just now before coming here with my city manager. We're gonna move forward. We already have been talking about this. Whatever we have, move forward. The idea I have for cities association is that we do a regional assessment. We work well together because anything happening in one part of our county is going to impact everyone if there's a mass issue. And so for that, I think for the board, I'm just sharing with you right now, I'm going to propose that we have one of the items, but even as a potential speaker, just let's keep something for disaster preparedness, one or two as we go through the year. What are the pieces to bring awareness, communication? This is the right place as a county.
No, I agree, whether or not that's CAL FIRE or the county already has the overview document for emergencies. That's
The hazardous mitigation plan.
Thank you.
I also think county fire might be a good
Yes.
Partner for that because they serve a lot of our agencies and they also do a lot of mutual aid response for wildfires.
Yes.
Um,
And I'll have a lot of information if things go, because we have in Saratoga County Fire.
mhm.
We contract with them, as you know.
Yep.
So we have been working with them. We're in the middle of a lot of other stuff getting sorted out. And if we are able to get this agendized in my city in the fairly near future, then there will be all that information that we can bring. I think county fire is great, but I didn't want to mention that because that's a personal advantage to my
No,
city.
yeah, I mean, if I can just briefly comment, I think there's gonna be a natural evolution in the emergency response industry and within municipalities to look at these scenarios and look at that kind of scenario planning coming out of, the fires in Los Angeles. I think whoever the fire or emergency response agency is gonna provide valuable information for the group because we are very consistent across these agencies that we provide mutual or auto aid all the time to each other.
We share resources.
So it's definitely something we're very close on. So I think any of the agencies that came could give us a good overview and get us started.
Thank you. I think it'll also lead into each cities, looking at our ordinances and not just communicate to the residents, this is what we have done and this is the process. Also maybe because we have been pretty good at changing the ordinances as needed, structure hardening
Mhm.
and things like that. So maybe some of those best practices, as you mentioned earlier, could be used by other cities in the center of the county or something far away from the very high fire zones.
Go ahead, Eric.
No, I just want to add, I'm so glad that was brought up. I also wanted to bring that up. In fact, I'm looking forward to my city's priority session where I'm also going to be bringing this up because, I remember years back, the Santa Rosa fires, I had friends up there that had to flee at 3 a.m. and, they lived in the middle of the city, and you'd think, oh, you're fine. But, my friend, I just remember having that initial conversation where he's like, you don't think that can't happen in Campbell? And it really got me thinking all those years ago. And we do have all these beautiful mountains with all those beautiful trees and your next door neighbor, Las Vegas, mountain town, and then right into Campbell, I don't want to put the horror scenario out there, but I would add maybe that we can also reach out to Valley Water because I've been getting some constituents, that are scared, whether it's fear mongering or not, about can we fight the fire? Do we have enough water? What about the projects where we're, right now we're currently working on our reservoirs,
Well,
how-
the bigger issue there, of course, is it's like 3 or 4 different water utilities that are
Mhm.
providing water in the counties. But, Valley Water is a critical one, but then SFPUC, Cal Water. So depending upon what community, where you live in the county,
Mhm.
it's a different provider. And the pressures are, dependent upon those different organizations. But yes.
Yeah, but if there's anybody, if they can all come in or something to just kind of reassure the community, I think that might be valuable because I've been hearing a lot of people like, if disaster happens, are we going to be able to fight the fire quickly, efficiently, and will we have enough water to actually do so?
Lisa?
And I this is something we talked about at our council meeting too. So it's top of mind for our residents and it's gonna be top of mind for council members. So I 100% support it. To Eric's suggestion, I think during the priority discussion, you propose it as a priority. I think that's how we get it on our agenda. It should be a priority, and I would be surprised if the board doesn't support that being one of our top 3 to 5 priorities this year. So we can tackle it these different ways because it's one of our priorities.
I am going to, as I offered Mayor Fine earlier, I'm happy to spearhead the efforts on this. I have the time this year, and I have been feeling very strongly because of where my city is located, that we need to get some work done. And so I'm just sharing that out there. So I'll be happy to propose that as a priority. As an organization, as a region, we work on that.
Yeah, I think the one thing we just want to be somewhat mindful of going into this, especially in terms of reassuring people, is something that that comes in a response from our Director of Public Works. You've, I'm sure, been getting a number of emails from a gentleman by the name of Eric Rock, yes.
Who lives here in Sunnyvale.
Yes. He has taken to emailing us as well directly. But one of the notes at the very end of Director Mosley's comments and response is, no municipal water system is designed to manage the extreme scale of structural fires or wildfires currently impacting Southern California, which is true. You know, and distinguishing the series of events and eventualities that led to that particular disaster from what we can and should be preparing for, I think is something that we have to be careful about, because there's also obviously the fear of clearly over-promising and under-delivering.
Yes.
We have lots of residents who are, you know, well accomplished in engineering and will double check everything that we claim or that staff claim, and if what they're wanting is a total surety that, oh, what's happening in SoCal can never happen here, they're not going to get that.
Right.
So
yeah, that's why I think it's better to focus on Cal Fire and County Fire as opposed to the water solution, because again, it's a lot of municipal issues and all that. But yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I think in an event like you had in LA, your initial focus is on evacuation of people, because you can have all the fire trucks in the world and the best water system in the world, and you're not going to knock down a fire like that that's being driven by 90-mile-an-hour winds, you know. So I think this discussion is really important, and it's also important for the community to understand, you know, what the limitations are also.
one of the other points we might want to raise is just how we coordinate across all the various jurisdictions that would have to be activated in that space of time, even if that's maybe asking the interoperability JPA to run through topic. Because there was a very interesting article in the New York Times the other day discussing, you know, one of the issues in Los Angeles just being the patchwork of different jurisdictions that had to respond.
Yeah.
And that is not something that we are unfamiliar with.
That's why I suggested the regional.
Okay. Any other suggestions for, and this is an open list for speakers. If you have ideas, definitely reach out to me, reach out to Shanley with suggestions. As far as the upcoming month, I think especially the collaborative is the critical thing, but we'll talk about agendas next.
Okay.
Is there any member of the public wishing to speak on this item?
No.
No. No action is needed. Let's go ahead and move on to item number 5, review January 30th meeting agendas and possible action. Shalini, you want to take us off?
At 5:30, we'll have the city selection committee meeting. And on that agenda, of course, there's the usual approved minutes. Last year, we only had one city selection committee meeting, so the minutes are from February 8th. Danny, you can also feel free to jump in at any point. The selection of the chair, we have to do that. Selection of the vice chair. And I might let Jenny speak a little bit about this, but we have a draft rules and regulations for how the city selection committee meeting is going to run. And so Janny has been working on that, so we'll have a staff report on that too. Jen, do you want to say a few words about it?
Sure. What we discovered in becoming a JPA is that there's actually a state law requirement that the city selection committee adopt its own rules. So we've prepared rules that comply with state law and also reflect what the city selection committee currently does. And hopefully it'll be kind of a quick agenda item. There's bare bones as we can make them, but the committee could choose to add some additional rules.
Thank you, Janny. And thank you for keeping us in order, because we didn't have those rules previously. So thank you. Lisa, anyone else comment?
No,
Lisa?
quick clarification, because I thought last year we realized too that a mayor has to chair the
Chair and
committee.
vice chair.
So, and we want at least one of those two people to be executive committee members. And so you may be the only mayor on the committee, so I'm just making sure it's clear who will be
Yes.
chairing
I
that
will,
city selection
I will
committee.
put my name up quickly for which shouldn't be a problem. It's always finding the vice chair, and
Yep.
and with only having 1 or 2 meetings a year, it's not a big deal, but yes.
Okay,
If
but
the
that
board-
hasn't changed.
That was part of the rules, I think, Janny, when we talked about them, that requiring that the chair and vice chair to be mayors. I thought.
Well, it's
At least the mayor, no, the chair.
Well, I think both, because if
Oh,
you're
well-
gonna vice chair, if you're going to vice chair or chair the meeting instead of if the chair isn't there. But if you can double check that, Janny.
I will, because all the members of the committee itself are supposed to be the mayors. And if they can't attend, then they appoint somebody to attend in their place.
Right.
But it's a really unique committee. I'll double check that.
Okay, thank you. I think I checked last when we were going through it, whenever it was 2 weeks ago, but yeah, that's good.
Do we want to put something in there that the chair should come from the executive committee? So I don't think that's in there.
I don't think that's a requirement. But
We can take a
but if
motion
it-
and
but it-
recommend the
but
appointment
if
of
the
Larry.
if the executive committee didn't happen to have a mayor,
Right, yeah.
which is definitely a potentiality.
Yes.
So I don't think we can require the executive committee to have a mayor, so I wouldn't put that in there.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And then we have about 20 roughly appointments.
I know, I saw that.
It's quite a lot. So they're listed here in alphabetical order. And so whoever the chair is, you are welcome to do these appointments out of order. Some of them are meatier than others, for lack of a better word. I'm going to send out a reminder to solicit more letters. We've only gotten 4. And in the past, yeah, I've only gotten 4. And 2 of them are from Dan Furtado,
Yeah.
actually.
When is the deadline? Because I've had people ask me about different.
26.
26.
Okay, so
26th at noon.
a
because
reminder
I
is
need to-
good, but I expect more applications.
Yeah, exactly.
And as far as the order, I know they're listed alphabetically now. But I was going to move up MTC and ABAG especially.
Wait, is
Um,
ABAG on?
Or sorry, is an ABAG, hang on,
It shouldn't be.
MTC is.
MTC is on there.
MTC is on there. Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
ABAG is-
My seat was up last year,
That's
so
right.
it's next year. Yeah.
Beyond that, MTC taking that I think is the critical thing to get out of the way. Did any of the other executive boards see as a priority? Because I know it's.
But I was just going to say BACMED and LAFCO.
Okay.
BACMED and LAFCO and Emergency Operations Area Council, EOAC.
EOAC doesn't meet until,
When did the meet? I didn't
Well, the
check this.
EOAC, what it is we're making a nomination to the Board of Supervisors. So whenever the Board of Supervisors, they'll vote on the appointment.
right, well, but it's important also, the sooner we appoint some of the, and actually how many of these need the supervisors to approve?
Well, only 2 of them, EOAC and,
MTC.
no, not MTC.
No.
There's one.
BACMED. It's not
Bac-
BACMED.
I listed it on here. I think it's BACMED and EOAC.
Okay, so MTC, EOAC, BACMED. should be moved to the top. Anything, and LAFCO, sorry, anything especially that needs approval by another organization, the sooner we get in front of them, the better, and then, you know, some of these are critical, so move those 4 to the top.
Okay,
Actually, I'm giving you direction, but it'll be part of the motion. Just so that, from an agenda standpoint, there's that expectation, and then everything else alphabetical, and we'll get to what we can.
Okay.
For the other ones.
President Klein.
Yes.
So I agree that putting it in the order where we're going to make a recommendation to another board is helpful. But for me, I think it would also be helpful, and maybe for the board as well, if you also put the date by which the appointment needs to happen. Because right now, the way it's drafted, you say when the term would end. But it's not clear if the term starts February 1st. Do we have that information?
we only have that information from a few of the.
I think that would help because it would also help to identify the ones that must go January 30th, right? Like if the term wouldn't start till April, we should still get it done since we don't have these meetings often. But I think it would help to see when the current term would start. You have when it ends.
Yeah.
But I didn't see where it starts, if you have that information.
And that information might not be there. Shali spent a lot of time with the
Sure.
different clerks just to get this information.
Right.
And we will be not unsurprised that the clerks don't have a clue on when any of these terms end.
Right.
Who's still appointed to them in some cases.
Yeah.
So there's been a lot of turmoil. Assuming that we get this done, most likely in our January meeting or our February 13th meeting, there's not that much time between them. So
Okay.
in either way, I'm hoping to get this done by February 13th.
And especially because Shali has already spent considerable time on this, please don't
Yes.
spend any more time on
Yes.
this.
The different clerks for the different boards have not been.
Right.
I now have all the information in the county, and like the clerks are calling me to ask me.
That's a good thing.
That
We're
is
finally-
something.
We're finally getting to that point. Yeah. Okay,
Oh, can I ask one more question? I'm
Absolutely.
sorry. So this came up only in today's email exchange. The San Francisco Bay Conservation and Development Commission, BCDC.
oh yes, we talked about that.
So I'm still trying to find out who actually makes that appointment, whether it's us or ABAG. But in case it's us, if I find out before the agenda has to be posted, can I add it?
No,
No.
you still need to post it 2 weeks ahead.
So there's nothing that says we have to post 2 weeks ahead.
Where did that come from? No.
I have to give.
It's-
Oh, go ahead. Jane.
No, you've got it. Shali's got it. Go ahead.
Give notice of the meeting to
Oh.
the committee members 2 weeks in advance.
Okay,
But as far as the open seats, there is no.
okay,
As far as the details, the specific details of the meeting just need to be provided in compliance with the Brown Act. They have to have notice that there's going to be a meeting, but they don't have to know exactly everything that's going to happen at the meeting 2 weeks before.
got it. Thank you. Does that mean, we're continuing, so it wouldn't be a noticing issue if we decide to continue this to the 13th, a portion of the meeting to the 13th, because we're making that notice at the
Yep.
January 30th meeting.
Yes,
And
and I would argue substantial compliance and all of that. And in looking at the state law, the members of the city selection committee are the mayors, and the members under state law serve as the chair and vice chair. It doesn't say so succinctly that it has to be a mayor, but I would interpret it that way. You have to be a mayor to be a member. If not, you can come and vote, but you're not a member.
Appreciate it. Thank you, Jenny, for checking.
Oh, so,
That's com-
well, I was going to say what you just suggested,
Okay.
but if we are not able to get it done Jan 30th, we are probably going to run it.
We're going to
February
continue,
13th.
right?
Yeah, so just a quick, Jani, FYI, I'm not the mayor this year, but just like last year, the mayor said you're doing all cities association meetings. Just do the city selection. So technically, am I not a member? I'm just a voting member of city selection. I mean, it doesn't matter to me one way or the other. I was not planning to be the chair or vice chair. We are going to make sure Mayor Klein is chairing that.
So technically, the mayor remains the member, but you're authorized to
Okay.
vote in the stead of the mayor.
Okay, thanks.
And San Jose does that too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
keep
Absolutely.
standing
Yeah.
practice.
Okay. Any other comments about the selection committee agenda? No? Perfect. Thank you. Moving on to the board meeting agenda.
So I looked at our January agenda from 2024 to see what we had done then. So of course, the priority areas, that's really key, so that's on there. I don't know how long that would take. The meeting calendar, my question is, would you like me to move the meeting calendar into consent? Or leave it as a separate item? Someone could pull it from consent if they want to discuss.
Leave it as consent and hopefully people will. I'll make a note. If people want to, I will make some comments.
Before.
I know. But it just,
No, but I agree.
but just
Put it on
point out to
consent,
everybody
yeah.
that we're okay.
And then I do an orientation for all of our board members, just so that the expectations of what it means to be a board member is clear from day one. Our planning collaborative consultants are going to add a slide to my deck to kind of introduce themselves. And we could have them do a separate update as well, or that can be pushed to February, either one.
No, I think go ahead and have them do a separate update
Okay, in January.
in January.
Okay.
I'm assuming we can get through. Your orientation is approximately.
20 minutes. It's not very,
Okay.
there's really no discussion.
And well, new members you don't know.
Okay.
Are we doing for the orientation, what was the topic we said we would?
Form 700 compliance, that's gonna be, so I'll work with Janny and Andrew to add that slide.
Perfect. And there was something else, the harassment policy, we're gonna mention that as well, right?
And then item 7, City of Gilroy's pending membership. So just
So Janny, I know I'm putting you on the spot, but we were going to take this after. We can for a length of time. It'll be on the agenda in some way, and we'll talk about it after this meeting or after in our next item. We'll get to Gilroy. Let's just leave it at that from an agenda standpoint.
and the rest of it is pretty standard.
I think that's fine. I think we'll figure out timeframes for each of these, but
Yeah.
I think this is a good first meeting and I don't think it'll go long, but definitely.
Never know.
It's like we never know how the new board works well. It's like whether or not the president has to push people along or make them be quieter, we'll see. Yes.
Great agenda. The only area I recommend that you, timing wise, the priority area setting, I have seen over the last few years, sometimes it goes very quickly. And sometimes there's a lot of discussion, like last year we were just burning our wheels over, no, we have 5 items, which 4 do we choose? Till I suddenly said, hey, let's just keep all 5,
Right.
and it helped move.
Right.
So if you come up with a plan in case we go into long discussions
Yeah,
for.
for me, the plan is if we start going long, we'll be ready with the sheets of paper on the side. That it's like, okay, put your top 2 votes on the 7 topics that people want to talk about. And then vote as you leave and we'll update people after the meeting. So there's always that backup that if we can't decide in the room quickly, then we'll say, go to the whiteboard, go to whatever and put the topics up. That it's like, okay, here's our 7 general topics. We need to choose 4 or 5, vote, and then you'll hear next month what that came out to be. So, yeah.
And it works, because
It
we had the
works.
backup plan last year too, and then we resolved it in discussion, but Shally was ready to do the white paper on the wall.
Exactly.
And we used it the prior year.
The prior year, yes, so that's why we had it as a backup, just in case the discussion didn't go quickly, but to your point, it depends on the board members.
Right. So they might, it's like fire. It's like we talked a lot about fire here and
Closing is gonna be fun.
Talking of board members, do we have a final list of all the board members?
So we don't, because some cities have not told me yet. And I keep bugging their clerks but they have not told me yet. So I will keep bugging them because I do need to send like a calendar. I sent a calendar invitation to whoever I think is, and I've got most of them. Like Palo Alto hasn't told me.
Oh, that's
So,
interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
that's
I
okay
met with
them.
I met with their mayor in DC, so
Oh,
I'll
okay.
bug them. I just added them to my contact list, so
Okay.
I'll check. So after this meeting, please give me who hasn't appointed yet and we'll figure out.
Do you have to solve this? Because it's me. There was some
Yes.
confusion.
Yes, so
Okay.
your Taylor Soleno was great.
Okay, so I'm for the board, but Pete Daly, our mayor, is for the other two.
Yes.
Yeah.
Did Mountain View already give you the info?
Not, no.
Because
know that-
it's all appointed by the new
Who's the
mayor.
Ellen,
Ellen,
Oh,
yeah.
Yeah, but it's just,
yeah, we don't know.
that was
the-
as of last Tuesday, so.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. It hasn't been that long to make it, so
Yeah.
please give me that list and I will also
thank you.
bug the mayors as I. Okay, any other comments about our board meeting agenda?
Yeah, and Tim, when did the city managers already meet for January? So the
Yes.
same Wednesday
Yes,
meeting time, okay.
So we'll have info from them.
He already has the.
yes.
Yeah, okay.
I'm on the agenda.
Yeah, same. Yeah, so I was like, did they already?
Thank you,
meet?
Tim.
So, can I get a motion then?
Any member of the
Oh,
public
sorry.
wishing to speak?
Nope.
Good. Is there a motion?
So moved. With
Second,
the changes.
there were
With
some
changes.
changes, right?
Yeah.
But
Moving,
with the proposed changes?
Yeah.
Yes.
second,
So motion to approve the January 30th City Selection Committee and Board of Directors agendas with the proposed changes by Flagger, second by Walia. All in favor? Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone. We'll move on to something critical. Danny. This is the discussion about Gilroy's inclusion or re-entry as part of the cities association, especially now that we're a JPA. Can you give us your feedback on what the next steps need to be?
Okay, we have in the actual JPA that they are supposed to request membership by presenting to the agency a resolution, and we're not sure that they actually did a resolution. So there's a question of how strictly to adhere to that, evidencing approval of the agreement as opposed to perhaps minutes of the city council. And then the date that the applying city will become a member will be determined by the board. And it will take a majority vote of the board members to welcome them in. Now, the interesting issue too is the dues. So the bylaws, which were adopted by the JPA itself and not by the member agencies, specifies that the full amount of the dues has to be paid before they can actually exercise any rights of membership. And we find ourselves already in January. So there's going to be a couple of options if that's, and it's interesting too, because the dues for the fiscal year commencing July 1 shall be an amount based on the approved annual operating budget. And it was noted in your budget for last year that their dues would be $14,000. So it's a question of whether or not that's an issue for them, because the two obvious options are that they could pay the full amount and become members and attend the February 13th meeting as members. They can always attend as members of the public. Or alternatively, if that's an issue for them, then they would wait until the next fiscal year. So they would have an entire year.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for Jenny? Lisa?
So Jenny, are you saying we don't have authority to prorate their membership dues?
What I'm saying is that it's clear in the bylaws that any city becoming a member of this agency during a fiscal year shall pay the full dues for that year prior to exercising any rights of membership. So we could modify the bylaws because that's something that's just done at the JPA level, although we're supposed to, my understanding is they may be sent to the actual member agencies for review, but I'm not sure that's the case. I can double check that. If the board wanted to do something that wasn't entirely consistent with that the board.
Attorney talk.
Yes, attorney talk.
The board.
If you ask me what's consistent, it's the full payment of the dues. That's what's consistent with the bylaws, but they are bylaws, and sometimes the board has prerogatives.
And I know the conversation, I mean, this was September, the expectation was to pay the full amount, but this was 3 months ago, right? And so maybe the expectation still is for them to pay the full amount. Like, have they raised this, Shali, as an issue about paying the full amount versus having it prorated?
No, but I did tell their city administrator, Jimmy Forbes, what the dues would be.
The total?
Yeah.
Good. That was what we had communicated in September as well, and no one blinked. You know what I mean? So it may not be an issue if we present, these are the things, like President Klein can present or communicate, these are the things you need to do in order for you to join our membership. We can bring it to vote on the 30th or February 13th, whatever, and not give them the option of asking for prorating the dollar amount. You know what I mean? You just have to pay 14,000. Like, that is the dues.
I think that makes sense, is, joining, if they've been members all year, and here's the value of that. My question, Jani, is, do they need to do a resolution that they haven't done, or what they've already done? Is what they've already done enough, or do they actually have to create a resolution in a different to request?
Do we, a couple of things there. Do we know whether or not they did a resolution?
They voted. So I watched that meeting, and they voted, but there was no resolution.
So
They
then
voted-
it's what's,
Voted to join.
They
yes.
voted to take action to join.
and did they vote to authorize the somebody, to city manager or the mayor, to sign the JPA?
I don't think so. I don't recall that, but I can go check the.
If they used the draft staff report that we had created, it would have had that language. Remember, Jenny, like in this draft, yeah, we had that language in it. So unless Jimmy changed it. I just want to be,
And as long
I
as
can go back and look at their agenda. I mean, it's what the comfort level of the board. It's nice that we ask for a resolution, because that's proof. But if there's minutes that said they took a vote, and if we are convinced that the person who signed the agreement has the authority to sign the agreement and they pay the dues, will everybody be comfortable even if there's not an actual resolution? Because it's still a legitimate action if they did it by motion.
Yeah, I think, and so it was a unanimous motion to rejoin or join as the JPA, Cities Association, as a JPA member. So at least that's what I got from Zach, or one of their council members. So definitely, there's something, there is video evidence, as well as just a maybe not a resolution, but a motion to rejoin, with the concept that here was the cost. I think I do remember when I glanced through the agenda that so it was noticed kind of accordingly that this would be the cost, this would be the cost of joining. And so I'm fairly certain that was the case. I just want to make sure that the whole resolution, I feel relatively comfortable that they went into this with eyes open, at least from my standpoint. And we have at least some documentation of their intention. Now, whether or not that's the definition of a resolution is always up to the lawyers to a certain degree.
And I think there's three pieces, right? I think there's the three pieces I mentioned is if there's an actual official notation of action taken. So even if it's not a resolution, if it's an action item motion and it's in the minutes that have been approved, if the person who signs the JPA has authority to do so, and we have a signed copy of the agreement, so they agree to abide by the agreement, and three, that they pay their dues. I think that's solid. I think that's extremely solid. And I wouldn't sweat it being a minute action versus a resolution.
Okay.
I found the agenda item. And it does say that in the action, they were approving the JPA agreement. And render the payment of the membership dues. And then they would bring it back on consent at the next meeting, which is the 27th, I think. To approve the agreement, and then with us on the reentry process. They do cite the $14,609 as the amount for the dues.
So we need to get them a resolution by the 27th.
Before.
Right, by, yeah.
So if you can talk to them, just close with the city manager on are they doing the second
Figure out
step
what-
on the 27th, and are they ready to go, at that next meeting? We're still going, but yeah. Okay,
Got it.
Tim,
Oh,
I could not
yeah.
find the agenda.
come on in, that's fine. Sorry.
It's kind of a weird site.
It is, like we went in and it was
Okay.
only for 2024.
No offense to Gilroy.
I know. So I'm very impressed.
I'm
like,
sure
how did
once you get
find
used
it?
to it, yeah.
Any other questions or comments for Jani or Shali?
Just a quick comment.
Yeah.
I like the fact, thank you so much, Tim, for pulling all of that. Not having to change the JPA bylaws is my preference, because the organization stays
yes.
professional. We don't want to go back to any of these cities. And so this looks pretty good.
Right.
That's it.
Thank you. Is there any member of the public wishing to speak on this item?
No.
No? And from an action item, we don't need to take any action, correct? No. Okay. Moving on to item 7, future meeting topics. So I think that comes from our priority setting, unless people have other specific topics that they're interested in.
Yes. So it's not a future agenda topic, but the county assessor's office is asking the Cities Association to co-sponsor an event. It's basically just giving an overview of this, the county assessor's office, what we do, how we work with cities. It's very similar to how we sponsor other events, for example, the Peninsula Division, and in the past, we make that decision about co-sponsorship because there's no financial contribution. It's really just a name and having, just like what we do with all the other co-sponsorships. And so they're asking us to co-sponsor an event. They're still working out the details. I think they're looking at either May 14th or May 21st, March. 2 Fridays in March. And so what they're looking for from the Cities Association is a co-sponsorship of the event, which would involve sending the emails very similar to what we do with the Peninsula Division, helping to promote it. Right now, they're thinking of making it like a lunchtime Zoom event on a Friday, so from 12 to 1 or 1:30. And it would be for council members and staff. So, and that's at this, I mean, we can decide if we want to do things differently for co-sponsorships, but normally we just decide here and then we announce it at the board meeting.
So,
So this is for all the city councils joining by Zoom?
Yeah.
And
There may be an in-person component. We may use one of our conference rooms for folks who want to come in person, but there will be a Zoom element.
So what's the, why routed through Cities Association? Just curious.
So you're just one of the vehicles. So it's the county assessor's office and doing a co-sponsorship with the Cities Association. The benefit is we have access to emails and we can reach out. Yeah. Matter of fact, I may suggest even, well, no, because it's San Mateo and this is Santa Fe.
And they're going to give an overview about.
County assessor's office and how we work with cities.
Thank
you. So if there's approval, I'll let the staff know and then they could work with Shava directly.
want approval at today's meeting?
We can do it at on the February 3rd
Thank
meeting. Yes, because it wasn't agendized.
I know.
What was it like?
But other topics?
Read minds.
Yeah. And I'll be talking to Supervisor Ellenberg tomorrow on topics that she wants to, conceivably the executive committee or cities association to undertake this year. And I'll also be talking to the president, Supervisor Lee later. So yeah, there's a lot of people that are always interested in, this is why I love this organization, is because we get to like focus on different things that apply to all of our cities. So other topics, other comments?
This will tie into the priority discussion, but for the ABAG meeting last week, they are revisiting BAFA, figuring out how we get a housing, so that's gonna come up this
Right.
year.
Yes. Well, it's housing and transportation.
Well,
Yes. So at some point this year, and that was one of my, actually, yeah, I had whoever becomes our MTC rep, this becomes a bigger issue because it's which bond are they going to prioritize for 2026, and having those discussions going forward becomes a big question. But I think that's for some time this year, but
And it will also tie into JR's work on LAC, because they're gonna also try to push through legislation to make the BAFA process easier.
oh, really? Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other comments?
No one on.
Anyone online? No one's online. We'll move on to item number 8, Santa Clara County City Managers Association update.
Yes, thank you. I'll be brief. We had our first meeting of the calendar year, which was mostly, just sort of a, first meeting of a calendar year, not a real heavy agenda. Pamela Wu has taken over, the reins, for the city managers, group. So thank you to Ed Shikata, who's been, handling that from Palo Alto. And, also, Peter Pernajad will be helping Pamela along the way. We talked about committee assignments, and so I'll have more on that, I think, with our next meeting. But we had a few open ones that we're filling in, and I'm waiting for a final list on what was finally decided on that, but that's looking good. And then probably the biggest thing out of the meeting, and I know that this group is already looking at some work with Kevin Dugan to talk about sort of roles and onboarding of new council members, because we have so much turnover in the county over, new council members coming on who aren't really familiar with it. We're actually looking at standing up, and this would be a little bit farther in, a more detailed orientation for electeds and city managers together. So we formed a subcommittee on that. So I'll look, and I'm on that. So I'll look to update this group and coordinate all of that. So we're not doubling our efforts. But obviously an issue that has been identified by this, by the Cities Association is also an issue that the city managers have identified as something that would be beneficial to all our communities. So I think that was the primary thing. We are still working through the management talent exchange program. So that is going to be back out and running again, and we're accepting applicants. That's where agencies trade employees for like a 3-month stint. So last year, Sunnyvale sent an employee to Mid-Penn Peninsula Open Space, and they sent an employee to us. You want them back? They never came back. I know. They got to Mid-Penn and they're like, wow, this is great. I knew it is nice. And also we'll be doing another session of the Santa Clara County Leadership Academy. So all things continuing as they have, and that's all I have to report.
Thank you. And just to let everyone know, so for those of you that were here a few years ago for the Kevin Dugan event, and I think so take our plans for the Cities Association back to the City Managers Association, because I do think what we're planning is Kevin speaking, and just to give a quick update from that, because it does tie in, having a group of mayors and council members that are, let's say, seasoned to pass on their wisdom. So a panel that Kevin's talking to from that standpoint. And one of the things that we didn't talk about when we're talking to Kevin is then having a panel for city managers. So kind of going mayor council panel and then a city manager panel to kind of get different perspectives. As much as I loved the mental health and all that we talked, but I think that there's value in trying to say,
There's a lot of value.
here's what it is and in a more relaxed, let's say,
Yeah.
comment, as opposed to, it was pretty rushed when we did it a few years ago, so.
Because it's part of the, yeah.
Any questions for Tim? Anyone in the public wishing to speak? Okay.
I didn't garner public comment either.
We can have somebody show up just.
No, that's okay.
We can tell city staff that you have a chance to ask your city manager. Next up is executive director update. Holly?
So just to piggyback on what Tim said, so the discussion was how do we want to partner with the cities association because they know that we're doing this. So I have joined that committee. And the leader of that committee is Kimbra McCarthy from Mountain View. And so we have a committee meeting coming up, I think at the end of January. The only other update that I have is that I have been very immersed in city selection committee, and I now have a comprehensive list of everything that we do appointments for, which is of course a living document because we didn't really have this information all in one place. But if anybody wants to see it, we have it.
And at some point, we'll get that on the website.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's
Thank
it.
you. Any questions for Shali? Remember the public. With that, we will adjourn the meeting at 6:01 PM. Sorry, we went a little long, but
Great meeting.
thank you all.